Hello, Culture Matters podcast. We're back again with culture content. If you follow me on Instagram, Jay Doran underscore the culture man, you're going to see consistent clips on different topics around culture, leadership, and so on, business, various topics. In this episode and others, look out for me expanding on some of these thoughts of these episodes that you have seen, or reels or stories that you've seen on Instagram. So follow me on Instagram, Jay Doran underscore the culture man, for those, and take a look at these long forms. So today, right now, we're going to talk about the biggest red flag that your company culture is costing you money. Why I think it's disengaged leadership is this reason. Because as we have a natural tension between delegation and responsibility, think about it. If I'm delegating a task out or delegating a job out to someone, whereas at one time it may have been me doing, or some of it, there's a natural tension in the trust that it takes to actually empower someone else to do it. At the same time, there's a void. That void being, well, what do I do now? If I don't know what to do with my time and space, with my intellectual property, with my goodwill of my community, with my time, meaning, what is that? Sacrifice. Values are challenged. Where am I going? Why am I going there? What am I giving up? There's a certain amount of labor that I'm going to have to put, no matter where I am in the organizational chart, into the business to grow the business. I have to be very careful not to become disengaged delegating or hiring or growing the company. And oftentimes, what I believe actually happens without even awareness, it happens naturally because of this tension between delegation and responsibility, between bringing people in to do something that was once done by another person that may be, like, let's say, the authority in that case, the leader in that case, the positional leader in that case, is the positional leader may not know what to do. So the biggest red flag that your company is costing, um, the company culture is costing you money, could be a disengaged leadership. So now we have a bunch of positional leaders, those that do as I say, not as I do. The people are picking up on that. The people that have a higher ranking, a higher position, actually aren't working nearly as hard as they once did. In their defense, they may not even be aware that they're not working as hard. They may be too insecure to admit to themselves that they are not even sure of what to do. They may actually think that they're working hard, and they may be so caught up in the paradox of the people not working it's like the people not appearing to work as hard as they should, so focused on convincing them to do better, or trying to provide them resources, from pizza parties to inspiration to education, not realizing that it's actually them that is not doing enough growth and expansion and sacrifice and showing the values by focusing on the next level of the vision, what the actual strategy is, beyond what the company's taken to get to where it is today. That the culture starts feeding and eating itself from the inside out. It becomes too top down. So essentially, the biggest red flag the company culture is costing money is positional leadership. Do as I say, not as I do. And in the defense of those in position, oftentimes they believe they're doing what they should be doing. They are not even aware that they're not nearly as bought in as they once were. They may actually feel burnt out. It's funny because people have, I actually believe that, well, oftentimes what I've observed is those that say, they may have said to you at one time in your journey, you're going to burn out. Everyone I've ever interacted that said that to me, I was actually of the belief that they lacked a purpose at that given moment. Maybe you lack a purpose right now. Maybe you've actually achieved your goal and you haven't yet figured out what the next goal is. And you're in a lull period where you lack a purpose and you don't even know you lack a purpose. Lacking a purpose can lead to the feeling of burnout. It can lead to regression. It can lead to there are studies that talk about people that finish their dissertations that become depressed. You achieve the goal and now you're depressed. So there's a neuro psychological literature around that. And the answer to that is, well, what's next? Now, life isn't just about what's next. It's also about, because there could be an argument, well, you can't forever chasing the cheese, never catching it. That becomes an ethical conversation of like, how are we doing what we're doing? Who are we doing it with? How deep and meaningful are our relationships? We can be we can be excited and focused on the future while still being present in the moment. So I don't accept that as a response. It can't both the future and the present are important. Both the future and the present are important, and that becomes a call to action to be able to discuss the past. And so, in relation to this idea of the biggest red flag that your company's culture is costing you money, it could be that those in the highest ranking, those in the highest with the highest authority, may actually not be doing what they could be doing. They may actually not be doing what they could be doing. And they may actually not even realize it. And they may actually not know what is next. And the vision, because maybe we've been successful. Now, what's next? And we may not be having the conversations necessary looking at the past to understand what went well, what went wrong. That brings the whole the trust component, the maturity component, the emotional maturity component, the ability to have conversations around ideas and not just around people, to be able to be vulnerable. Whoever in the position of authority, influence, and power has to have a degree of vulnerability while simultaneously having having a strong representation of strength. And remember, leadership is being involved in is like being at the precipice of paradox because it's it's riddled in contradictions. How are you going to be vulnerable and while at the same time decide, you know? How can you be vulnerable at the same time be absolutely certain? Because, for example, we have to question and doubt our plans with our team. But once the decision's made, a leader is going to get eaten alive if they then doubt the decision that's been made, because no one's going to believe in the decision, and then no one's going to, not enough action is going to be taken. And that's how people lose games, they lose battles, they lose wars. Once you decide, you have to go all in and make it happen. And when to adjust and when to pivot, that's part intuition, part conversation with the people. And it's not an easy place to be in. So for all the leaders out there, those that have title, those that have rank, those that have won games and feel that pressure, know that, yeah, you're in that seat with great power comes great responsibility. So the biggest red flag to company that your company culture has cost you money could be actually that we've grown ourselves out of engagement. We're actually not as responsible as we think we are. And there's too much top down accountability. Do as I say, not as you do. An overemphasis on the people, not enough of a awareness and clarity and focus of the leadership that's actually role is to get clear on where are we going, why are we going there, working on how we're going there, and then having equal sacrifice, if not greater than the people, to actually demonstrate the values and show the values and inspire the greatness out of the people, inspire the best out of the people, and make those tough decisions of those that are not inspired, are unwilling to evolve and adapt and change, that won't be best suited for the organization, that have to leave the organization. It's hard to make those decisions, those tough accountability decisions, when those with positional leadership are not responsible, when they're actually disengaged. So responsibility is a consequence of engagement. Engagement will be a consequence of awareness, education, emotional maturity, the life cycle of the organization, which is all of that's going to have a relationship with whoever's actually running that organization. Is it the founder who's matured into the role of the CEO? Is it a hired CEO that's actually that actually is capable of learning the nuances, building trust with the people, developing a strong bench. Absolutely. Is it even possible for that CEO to be as engaged and obsessed and their identity to be almost a reflection of the organization as it once was for the founder? Well, I'll tell you, it better be if they're going to be a successful CEO. They're going to be like a chameleon. They're going to fall in love with that business, even that maybe it's not possible to. That's a quandary that we can figure out in these conversations. As I continue to talk with you, but can that CEO find as much love in that organization as the founder? I think they can. Just like someone that's born today in America can find as much love for their country as someone that founded the country. You know, will they? That depends. You know, what's how much have they suffered? What do they know about? What do you know about the country that you inhabit? What do I know about the culture that I inhabit? Do my values align with that culture? Does that culture that the culture that I'm a part of align with the vision I have for my life and what I'd like to accomplish for myself and my family? If it does, how responsible am I? Meaning, how much am I willing to sacrifice towards that aim? The bar is set really, really high. So this is like the end point here. If you're in a position of leadership where you're actually seen as an authority, you have influence inherently based on your title. With that comes a tremendous amount of power, and that power can invert based on your actual character. People will stop believing in you, and they may not leave the company, but they'll gossip, they'll slander, and maybe rightfully so. Maybe you're not actually the leader you once were. Maybe you're burnt out, meaning you lack a purpose, meaning maybe you've actually succeeded and accomplished everything you set out to accomplish, and you're not clear on the next version of yourself in the organization. You're not clear on the vision. The identity isn't clear, and the sacrifice is not there, because why would I sacrifice based without a vision, without an aim, without looking to see something farther? You might, and then if the values aren't tested, if I'm not being tested, I might swing between, as Schopenhauer would say, uh, pain and boredom. Life is like a pendulum; it swings between pain and boredom. So a lot of this has to do with a lack of identity, a lack of purpose, which we're talking about in a culture, like a company standpoint. That's the company culture. You're talking about a leadership standpoint. That's the leader's personal goals and how they tie in with the organization. It's also the leader's character and whether that actually is alignment with the company's values or not. And so a big red flag across the company culture buddy is positional leadership, disengaged management, without even an awareness that that's the case, and a top down tyranny, almost a soft tyranny on the people, where it's an overemphasis of accountability and a lack of personal responsibility of those in positions of influence, authority, and power. And that's one of the reasons people like me exist as advisors, those that are outside of the organization structurally, but have their heart, their spirit, whatever metaphor you want to use, totally involved and inculcated in the best interest of the organization, the shareholders, the people, the ownership, and so on, to be an honest feedback loop of, hey, this is what could be going on, because as organizations grow, uh, they can become corrupt, meaning it can be harder for the people to say the truth if the management is unable to hear it for whatever reason. So that's where having outside feedback that is less inherently afraid of telling the truth, to be honest, and work in the best interest of the shareholders, and ultimately have enough compassion and empathy and reason and reasonableness to work with a disengaged ownership that may have the best of intentions, but the results aren't showing up the right way. As they say, or as has been said by wise people, wiser than me, hell is paved with good intentions, or the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So having compassion for people and helping them through these um, inherently manifesting contradictions of success, like the consciously engaged but implicitly disengaged ownership, the person that believes they're totally bought into what they're doing, but they're just not working on the right things, or they're not nearly as bought as they think they are, or they've convinced themselves they are based on interpersonal conflicts. And it, just as an aside, winning comes at the cost, and sometimes it comes at people's personal lives cost. So then they create such success. Now they're reacting to their personal lives being in a mess, and now the business that was up is now going down, and you could lose everything in an instant if you're not paying attention. So a big red flag that the company culture is costing you money is that positional leadership, that disengaged leadership, where we've overhired as an emphasis or as a response to too much vision and non execution. And oftentimes, that's a consequence of people lacking a purpose, the culture lacking an identity, which is composite of the story and the values and the activity, the rituals that it takes to actually build an organization. It's a lot of work. So don't start a company if you're not willing to finish it. And I will see you next time on the Culture Matters podcast. Please leave us a review on the Culture Matters podcast.